Hello, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this webinar of hybrid clouds. During this webinar, we will zoom on what is hybrid cloud and what can it be used for. We will also give you some insights on the partnership between Proximus and HCL in the domain of hybrid clouds. We'll go through the portfolio, the hybrid cloud portfolio of Proximus, and then we'll just discuss on what the future can bring in hybrid clouds. Your host for today is, first of all, myself, Robert Heijvaart. I'm business developer at Proximus in the hybrid cloud division, and I'm mainly focusing on what can a customer actually do with a hybrid cloud. It's not just about having a cloud as IT environment, but it's, okay, what does it bring to me for my business, for my operations? And that's where I try to find solutions for our customers.
Yes. Yeah, my name is Gijs Manders. Great to join you. And Robert is actually sitting next to me. So joining you here from Brussels, from Proximus Towers. I've been looking after the relationship between Proximus and HCL for the last 6 years. It's a relationship that's been there for 15 years, but has really accelerated in the last 2 years, where we formed this partnership. And I'm massively excited to say, okay, we can finally announce what we've been working for so long together, Robert.
Okay, so let's first zoom on hybrid cloud. What is it? Why? So what we see is that we switched in the last years from an economy of scale, where the big players were eating the small ones. We are shifting towards an economy of speed. So customers are no longer willing to wait a couple of months to get updates and improvements on their products and services. No. When they give you the feedback, they want you to do something with it, react immediately, and make sure that they get the best experience according to their wishes. So this has implications for your IT environment, which means that you can't operate in an IT environment as it used to be, where you have 2-3 major releases per year. No, what the customer is expecting now is that you follow the feedback of the market and you react immediately. So your IT environment that makes all of this possible also needs to get this speed level. And that means that they have to switch from an as is to be project-based updates of your IT environment into an IT environment from constant change, constant improvement, constant deployment. And the basic goal why, as a company, you would like to do this is that the business models are also changing. With this economy of speed, the type of business models that are put in the markets are different. And we can fairly state that the future business model should be digital, and therefore hybrid cloud is one of the tools. And also what we see at a lot of our customers is that they are looking for new business models and new revenue streams, and also want to use cloud as an enabler for that. So if we look to the role of IT in the past and today, well, in the past, the IT department was considered as a cost center, responsible to build the hardware and software and make sure that it is up and running and continues to run. Today, we see that the business is looking at IT as they were looking to an innovation hub and say, hey guys, we want to become a digital company. We want to have new kinds of business streams. So please give us the tools that we need and the technologies to transform our business models into this new era of the economy of speed. And that means that an IT environment, anno 2022, you will hear words like speed, agility, flexibility, adaptivity. And in the meantime, also be compliant with all the regulatory issues, taking care of data integrity, making sure that the GDPR rules are respected, but also enabling the company policies to be implemented correctly. And all of this in being as cost efficient as possible, and also taking care with the past. So this is the new items where an IT environment anno 2022 needs to take care of and needs to consider.
Yeah, and Robert, I completely second that. You can't tell, of course, on the image, but I've been in the industry for a while, and I remember that the way you used to do infrastructure is, hey, somebody has a new application, some new whatever, SAP or something, and you buy the infrastructure that fits with it, and then you write it off for 4 or 5 years, the storage, the compute, the firewalls. But that is not good enough anymore, right? And then the promise of public cloud, for instance, is great. You pay per use, you scale up if you need more, you scale down if you do less. But then once it's on a public cloud, do you still know who has access to that data, or who has the rights to access that data? And in the meantime, your legal is saying, hey, but rules are being put in place that you are now liable, in case of a data breach example, for 4% of your total turnover of the year. So it is a massively complex environment where you need to get a lot more control, where everybody wants to use the flexibility, agility of a public cloud or a private cloud. But there's also these elements where you say, I still have legacy applications. How can I also leverage that total in one combination? And it's clear there is no one size fits all. Now, if you then look at these are basically the 3 different types, and there's all sorts of intermediate solutions. But let's look at on the right hand side, where you have the public cloud providers, be it Microsoft, Amazon, Google, or even Alibaba for that matter, coming into play. But that offers hyperscalability. So yes, you can indeed put something on there. We've seen it when we launched the new app for Manchester United on football, right? Boom, 900 million people are fans. Yeah, that requires that type of a flexibility, scalability. Now, the best use of this type of a cloud is when you also have your applications that are developed purely to utilize those type of environments. So usually you indeed see this in emerging technologies, and when people are transforming applications, then they can really make perfect use of public cloud. But as we'll see later, it is a tight fit, right? There is no, in that sense, a lot of customer intimacy. It is, you take this service and that's the service. Now, if you then look at local private cloud providers, like Proximus as an example, where you say you can take your local infrastructure, but also in the same type of scalable manner, right? So it is a shared platform where multiple customers, of course, separated, but you typically find that they're very more customized, and you can decide whether or not, hey, do I want my environment to be managed by people from offshore and from India or nearshore, from Poland as an example, or do I want it managed by Belgian people, which very often is the case if you have certain data regulations. So local private cloud providers definitely have a very good role to play, and especially with the change in sovereign clouds. We can all see now that the world is changing again, and there'll be a massive turn back from saying as we need to be more dependent on our own cloud. Local in Belgium, this is where my systems are. But still in a flexible environment, pay-per-use, that type of environment. Now, on the total and the other end of the spectrum, you still have those environments where you say the optimum mix is still a dedicated environment, your own environment, completely separated off from others. It has that same mechanic, right? Every 4 or 5 years you refresh, but even there's methods to do it differently. But usually with legacy applications or legal data constraints in that type of a play. So I think with that, Robert, you have different scenarios where this fits.
Yes, indeed. But so basically what I understand is that from those 3 potential infrastructures for your IT deployment, there is not one single environment that can give a decent answer to all your challenges that you have as an IT department nowadays. So the most logical next step is, okay, I'm going to combine different environments to suit my challenges. First combination, for example, is that you combine your on-premise with a local cloud provider. And basically, the choice you make as an IT responsible for one of those combos that you see here depends on the kind of business you are in, but also largely depends on the state of mind your business is in at this stage. But typically, if you look to a combination of on-premise and local private cloud providers, we see that it's mostly a legacy-driven ICT environment, which is also a very cost-driven ICT model. But this combo is mostly used to offload the IT departments of the company itself. But it's not really focusing or aiming for what new features and new technologies clouds can bring. And then you have the second combo where you will combine on-premise and public cloud. And there typically it's those companies that say, well, I need to transform my business. I need to explore new possibilities. And I see a lot of potential, technology-wise, but also on scalability and so on and so on. I see a lot of potential in this public cloud. So I want to try it out, and I want to see whether I can create some new business, some new revenue streams by using the potential of the public cloud. And typically, we see that they start some small initiatives in the public cloud and use this to test out their assumptions. This is when you want to go very fast and benefit in a very fast way from the advantages of public cloud. But there is also a potential issue here, is that you are creating a dual IT department. And that's something you need to be aware of, that as soon as you discover the potential of cloud and public cloud, is that you must realize that you cannot continue in two separated environments, and then you must make sure that this combo of those two environments operate as one single environment. And so that's a watch out. And basically, those companies who say, okay, I want this digital transformation, but I still have a lot of legacy, and I also want to offload my IT teams, typically, they take time to reflect, to put a decent strategy, and they say, okay, I need a balanced IT landscape, so I still want to run my legacy. I want to offload my IT department, but in the meantime, I also want to explore new business idea, new business cases, potential new revenue streams. And typically, those kind of customers, they take a little bit longer before they start with the digital transformation, but at the end, we see that it lasts longer than those who immediately jump to the public cloud and then at X time realize that they are in a dual IT modus and they don't have a coherent portfolio or proposition anymore. Now, about this hybrid cloud environment, when we are discussing with our customers, we see that as well in the domain of applications, data, operations, there are a lot of use cases in which the only decent scenario is a hybrid cloud scenario. And if we talk to our customers, mostly we see that 3, 4, even more of those use cases are real reality in the companies today. If on application level, for example, you can say, okay, I will use the cloud for my newest workloads, and I will just keep a backup on-prem, or my front-end applications, I will run them in the cloud, but my backend, I will keep it on-prem. On data, for example, I will put my non-sensitive data in the cloud, but my sensitive ones where I have full control, where I can make sure that nobody can touch my data, I keep them on-prem. For operations, for example, I can just run my business as usual on the on-prem, but I can use the cloud for disaster recovery. Or if I don't have a stable traffic on my network, I can, instead of oversizing my on-prem IT environment, I can say, no, I just take the basic sizing on-prem, and I will take care of the bursts thanks to the elasticity that a public cloud offers me. So these are the typical kind of scenarios that we find back in more than 95% of our customers that are thinking about evolving towards a new hybrid cloud IT environment. And basically, this is where we base ourselves on defining, okay, what is your actual situation, where should you go to, and how will we tackle this? But we also promised you, so this was an overview of why hybrid cloud, what is it exactly. Now I propose to zoom a little bit in the Proximus and HCL partnership. So you probably all read or heard in the press end of last year that Proximus has a partnership with HCL for exploring our private cloud data centers. Now, of course, this press release appeared end of last year, but this was not decided overnight. So we know each other already for quite a long time, and we've been discussing quite some time on this specific partnership also. And but before continue on the partnership and what it brings, I propose that Gijs explains us who HCL is and what they stand for. Gijs?
Yeah, sure. Now, I mean, as you can see by the figures, we're one of the bigger IT companies, close to 200,000 people, and we're very fastly growing, up to 20% per year. But what I normally describe, I mean, HCL is not a very common, not a very well-known name, I think, especially in Belgium, but it stands for Hindustan Computers Limited, because our founder, Mr. Shiv Nadar, actually started developing with a couple of friends in his garage. He started developing computers, right? And he is still the majority shareholder, and his daughter is our chairperson. And so even though we're publicly traded, we really come from that type of a startup type of a culture. Now that gives us a certain how do you say that? Heritage and culture. First is we're very technology driven. We are not a company that focuses on offshoring work because it is cheaper, right? We are focusing on bringing the best of technology. So yes, we reduce costs, but that's through automation, right? Cost and agility through automation, not just by leveraging geographical benefits. Second, so technology background. Second is the culture of the company. Now, if you look at the culture of the company, and you see it here, number one employer as an employee, and I can personally vouch for that. But our CEO had written a book called Employees First, Customers Second, which is a very strange concept normally, because you always say customer is first. But the philosophy has always been, if you have happy employees, then these will do their utmost best to make your customers very, very happy. And that's what we see, right? We are very highly ranked in customer satisfaction, actually in the top 20 globally, after companies like Google and Amazon and those kind of guys. But also very highly ranked in customer satisfaction as a result. So really technology driven. And I think the other is what still counts is a bit of that mentality of partnership, right? Really collaborating with others, because nobody can do everything themselves anymore. And I'll come back to that in a bit. Now, if you look at the scale at what we globally do on cloud. Now, if you normally look at cloud, then any of the key analysts recognizes HCL as one of the top leaders, normally either top 1 or top 3 in the world, with over 40,000 people. And I'll come back to that, 40 plus innovation labs. And we have innovation labs all over the globe, but also together, for instance, with Microsoft, with Dell, with all of these key players to continuously push the technology. And an example is, if you look at the reference, we indeed run infrastructure, for instance, for Facebook, for Google, for Microsoft. We are the ones that moved Microsoft themselves to Azure, and of course in close collaboration together. But yes, this is one of the areas where we extremely excel when it comes to technology and operations. And I think that's the logical bridge as well, Robert, on the next slide. Because if you look at any company, and this is Thierry and Wiersma, I think, the original model, any company has to choose where they want to excel. Now, if you look at HCL as a company, we excel very well in the product leadership, so focusing on technology, making stuff better, leading the cloud journey with our global customers. Now, operational excellence as well. We, as I said, we are not a time material cheap labor company. We are a managed services company. We run the infrastructure for companies like banks, the stock exchange, and indeed now also for instance, a telco like Proximus. But in a combination, if you look at any combination, ideally customers want all three. Now, and that's I think what is the uniqueness on this partnership. because Proximus brings that customer intimacy that HCL could never bring in Belgium. And so Proximus has always had a very strong focus on customer intimacy, on the IT, very close to the customer, and of course, as a telco, also on operational excellence. And I think the combination is a massively important and brings a lot of value to all the Proximus customers in Belgium.
So you probably understood that although the press release that I showed you in the beginning was only mentioning our private cloud DCs that would be operated and run by HCL, we extended our partnership throughout the entire hybrid cloud offering and what we can represent on the market. And as Gijs just said, there are three value domains or value disciplines where a customer is looking for. It's product leadership, operational excellence, and customer intimacy. And there is not one single player in the world that can excel in the three domains. But if you take two players like Proximus and HCL, who each of them already did and do excel in two of those domains, and if those domains are complementary, then I think you can and must have the ambition to put really a leadership proposition in the market. We have the product leadership of HCL, where we have as Proximus on the Belgian market access to their entire hybrid cloud portfolio, all the IP that they developed in the past. They had already some experience. They have and do already have some operational excellence where they have their nearshore and offshore centers. We are very strong on a local basis. And if you then combine also methodologies that HCL put it in place and developed in the past for the cloud assessment, cloud migration, elastic operations, financial operations, and you put those together, you have a very, very strong position. And next to that, we are, of course, a historical incumbent player in Belgium. And we are used to get very close to our customers and guide our customers through whatever journey they want to undertake. So it's still our ambition also in the hybrid cloud world to go throughout the full customer journey together with our customers. So we want to think with you about your strategy through the migration up to the full management of your environment.
Yeah, maybe let me add one thing, Robert, is because the way how you should look at this practically, who is your contact now? It is your Proximus account manager, your Proximus service delivery manager, your Proximus architect. Those are the guys that you we work with. How to look at HCL in this partnership? We're the strong big brother that helps you in the back, right? That indeed we have enhanced the cloud portfolio that Proximus already had to make it industry leading, and we've indeed brought all of our best practices, global, as we call them, blueprints on how do you do these type of operations? How do you assure that flexibility, that cost benefit, etc., that you can bring in that typically a public cloud provider bans? How can now Proximus offer that from a local provider to the customer? But to be clear, your contract is with Proximus. We're this you wouldn't say that from a Dutch guy, but we're the silent voice in the back.
Yeah, and basically, just to summarize, we are close to the customer and we take care of this excelling in the discipline, in the value discipline of this customer intimacy. Now, if we zoom into the hybrid cloud portfolio that Proximus is putting on the market in Belgium, Luxembourg, and Holland, basically, we just, in the beginning, we mentioned that there are three potential environments that you can use to host your IT environment. Well, it's logical that for a hybrid cloud environment, you will combine those three potential environments. So it's also logical that we have those three environments as our main pillars in our offering. So we have the Proximus private clouds running in our DCs in Belgium. We have we are working and we have teams that are working on the public clouds, and we are also very active on everything that has to do on the on-premise cloud. So putting infrastructure in place on the premise of the customer. And all of this, and next to that, we also have a very extensive housing potential, and we have a whole bunch of professional managed services, which we also offer to the market. But our strength, our value proposition is really in combining all those environments enriched with professional and managed services that we can offer to the customer. And the whole suite of solutions that we can offer to the market is under the umbrella of what we call Proximus Cloud Fusion. Now, what you don't want as a customer is that if you opt for a hybrid cloud environment and you use different environments to build it, is that those three environments are not logically linked together and do not behave like one IT environment. So what you want to avoid is that you need dedicated teams to manage your private cloud and another team to manage your on-premise, and then still another team for your public cloud. So that's why within the offering of Cloud Fusion, we very strongly focused on developing a Proximus Cloud management platform. It's a platform that gives you the possibility to manage all the different components which together make your full IT hybrid IT environment, to manage it from one tool stack. And it can be done by one team because you don't want to create sub-teams for each individual environment. And this cloud management platform, or this cloud management tool, is and was developed by Proximus. And we did it with the four distinct roles that you need to manage a hybrid cloud environment in the back of our heads. First of all, we thought about the people who are doing on a daily basis the cloud operations. It's the one who keep your instances up and running, who make your service catalog, who make sure that everything is standardized. So we had this persona in the back of our heads when developing the Cloud Fusion management platform. But we also had the security people in our minds. So how do you establish a role-based access control? How do you manage your identities? What about the life cycle of your implementations, and so on and so on? So this was the second persona that we had in mind when developing Cloud Fusion management platform, so cloud management platform. Third, in the beginning, we said that we should evolve towards an economy of speed. So that means that you need to offer an environment to your developers in which they can operate this constant improvement, constant deployment. So we also had those kind of profiles in mind when developing the cloud management platform. And then last but not least, you also have the financial people, making sure that you are using your money that you spend in an optimal way. And so those four roles, all four have their tools and their means through the cloud management platform to perform their job in the hybrid cloud environments. So in a nutshell, so Cloud Fusion is an ecosystem of the different components that build your hybrid clouds, but also enriched with professional and managed services. Of course, you can, with the peace of mind, run your business critical applications. It is a high performance environment with all reliability that you desire. We support hybrid and multi-cloud, and it's offered as platform as a service, so fully worry-free for the end user and for the customer. But evolving from an as is, let's say, old way IT environment into this new hybrid cloud environment, well, there is no dedicated way how to go from one state to another. There is no one-size-fits-all strategy to make your journey to the public cloud. So, and this is where this customer intimacy, where Proximus is very strong in, comes in the play and plays a very important role. So we, of course, identified which are the steps that you definitely need to take in going from state A to state B, and B being full hybrid cloud environment. So yes, of course, you need to do an assessment and you need to migrate at a certain moment in time and finally end up with your financial operations and elastic operations. But the way to do it, although the steps have the same name, the way to do it is different for each customer. And that's where this intimacy that we can offer on the Belgian markets is so important. So first of all, we start thinking with the customer about, okay, hybrid cloud, but why? And not why in general, but why for you? What does your business look like? How do you want to transform your business? And how can cloud help you? And that's the discovery phase. And then once you know what exactly is your strategy and how you want to use this hybrid cloud, then, well, you can define where you want to go to. What is your ideal hybrid cloud IT environment? But in knowing how to get there, you need to know where you are today. So that's why we do a cloud assessment. So where are you today and what applications are you running? What is the relationship between those different applications and the different workloads you have? Based on the as is and the where you want to end up, we can define cloud foundation. So putting the foundations of the infrastructure in place that you are going to use as your future hybrid cloud IT environment. And also define how we will migrate from the old situation to the new situation. Is there a necessity for some applications to make them cloud native and to benefit from what the public cloud has to offer? Well, okay, in the meantime, we will also think about, do we need to re-architect, or do we need to put some applications in containers, for example? So all of this is also a step on this journey. And then, of course, once you did the migration, it's time to optimize. And then we look, okay, are you running in the ideal environment for you from an operations point of view, but also from a financial point of view? And once we go through this, and basically financial operations and elastic operations is something that continues to exist throughout the whole life cycle of your hybrid cloud environment. But once you did your optimization on your environment, then you put the elastic operations in place and make sure that your environment is decently secured and very well managed. Sorry. Now, what brings the future? Basically, the future, what we can say now is that in combining what HCL, I'm pointing there because Gijs is just sitting next to me. This is what HCL and Proximus has to offer. Basically, the only limit that you would have today is the limitations that you have in your own mind, in your own mindsets, and probably hesitations of, is this doable? Well, by default, the answer is 99.99% yes. But it's not easy because it's so broad, it's so large, there are so many technologies that, and as part of this customer intimacy, we have been thinking on how can we help the customers, how can we give them some comfort, and how can we do it in such a way that they understand where they want to go, but also give them a good feeling and that they will not waste some investments and so on and so on. And that's why, together with HCL, we are going to build a hybrid cloud innovation lab in the Proximus Towers. And guys?
Yeah, this is, I talked in the beginning about how we leverage innovation labs. So we have about 40 of them. And as an example is we have one with Microsoft, with IBM, with all of the global players, as you would expect from a company of our size. Now, the question is then, how do you bring that to the local market? How does that benefit you as a customer says, but I have an issue, right? Or I have an idea, even better. Now, the way we use the labs, because we use these labs globally as well, and the lab that we are setting up actually at the moment with Proximus will go live quickly, is a copy of the labs that we have in London, Noida, and Dallas, the cloud native labs, where we first one of the things is to show the art of possible. So if you have a use case, an issue, you can come into the lab, you can challenge our engineers, and these are all dedicated engineers, but a very large team of them. And they will say, okay, but for this, I would look at Google. For this, I would look at Amazon. Let us do a pilot. Let us spend a couple of your software developers with us in the Proximus Towers here in a room, and we'll see if we can get it done. But it's really shaping the art of possible. Thinking, idea workshop, that kind of stuff. Now, we also use the labs as training facilities. At the moment, we are training Proximus and HCL people on site reliability engineering. Very key when you go to containers and next level. So the labs are really the way to pull the whole innovation forward. As an example, we currently have about, I don't know if it's public information, but we've got about 300 people working on this environment. the Proximus cloud environments. Of course, backed up by the global, but there's a very big, large team of jointly Proximus people and HCL people working, offering these services to the market. Now, these need to constantly be trained, as will your engineers and your IT people. So that the lab plays an important role as well. But really, the key is we bring together the best that we have to offer from a global scale. As I said, let's take IoT works or HCL software. All of these solutions that we co-develop with the large global players, we bring that into Proximus, into Belgium, into Proximus Towers, and then we look at how can it best benefit you. And this is a dedicated team of people being here in Brussels, and definitely looking forward to basically come up with any challenge that you have, or to really look at, hey, but if here I am in my journey, could you showcase to me how could that future look like? Because then it becomes really tangible.
And if this wasn't already wow enough, because I think it's really wow, I can add that Proximus is more than just a hybrid cloud provider. We're also a telco provider. We are active in data analytics, ML, AI, IoT, and so on and so on. And we have also a 5G innovation lab that combines all of those technologies, also available or operational in our towers, Proximus in Brussels. And it is the goal, of course, to combine the potential of this hybrid cloud innovation lab and the 5G innovation lab, so to enable even further for the end-to-end development of potential use cases and guide our customers through what they potentially could bring to the market. So what we want to stimulate here by offering this hybrid cloud innovation lab and the 5G innovation lab is that we want to drive an ID-driven culture, that we want to put this in place, but we also want to provide the potential or the possibility for our customers to do some quick prototyping and check whether their assumptions they had on some business cases, and some use cases, whether they are correct. And all together, we are together with our customers and also other partners in our ecosystem, thinking with our customers, for our customers, on how to create value. Now, if after all of this you say, yes, I'm a believer, then I would say, let's build your future together. And if you want to learn more about the benefits of hybrid cloud for your business, if you say, no, I'm convinced about the benefits, but I don't know exactly how to go through that path, or if you have some business ideas or use case ideas and you want to validate them, if you want to build up some hybrid cloud experience in your organization, come to us, together with us, Proximus and their customers. We can co-create and explore the potential of hybrid clouds and all other technologies surrounding it, thanks to our two innovation platforms. And if you want to reach out, we will pass these keynotes to everybody who is in the call. You can just reach out to the names that you see on the bottom of the slides. So this was the last slide, guys. Do you have something to add?
No, I'm actually looking through the questions, and some of them are clear as well. So I'm eager to get into that conversation.
Okay, so then thank you all of you for your attention. And I see we still have about 20 minutes left, and which was also planned for the Q&A session. So
yeah, I think let's start with you can actually join me as well. Or shall I join you? No. Feel free to join me if we can see it. Yeah, now you can see us both. Let's first go on how does this work? Can I leverage HCL's global scale? Can I use the expertise of HCL? And that's exactly what we're doing, right? So for all of these solutions, we discussed what do you typically do in terms of where is customer intimacy interesting or most important, and where can you leverage, for instance, offshore, nearshore technology? So and which technology do you use? Now let's take an example. We're currently executing a few cloud assessments. Now, a cloud assessment is typically something that you do locally with somebody that understands your business, That is your consultant, your advisor. So that's a Proximus person. What have we done in the meantime? We have trained all of the Proximus consultants in the HCL methodology on how do you do cloud assessments. And they are leveraging the HCL tools, indeed, that we use for some of our customers. And so there are indeed, I think at the moment, there's about 5-6 consultants trained on cloud assessment, as an example, and they're fully trained. And then the first project, yes, they'll be supported by HCL people that, for instance, do a lot of the analysis work from the backend. I think that's I hope that answers the question. So the answer is yes. You can definitely leverage that through. So it's not just the cloud providers, but it's also the services, the people. Let's take the example of ElasticOps, which is the service how you manage public cloud, right? Because you can take public cloud, but you would like to have a managed public cloud sitting on top. Now that's a service that typically you do from offshore. Yeah, because it's remote. It doesn't require a lot of interaction. It's 24/7 monitoring, all of those services. But then if something happens, your incident manager is somebody local that knows your environment and gives you a call in either Dutch or French. Maybe another interesting one is the cloud management platform, and I think that is a good question. And so yes, we have one and Proximus co-developed one platform, cloud management CMP, that sits on top of all of these. Now there are customers that, for instance, are 90% cloud native and looking at, hey, I want to use Azure or Google as an orchestrator. That also, of course, works. And so yes, the standard service is you have one overarching CMP and you use those 3 different clouds. But if you happen to be a customer that is very far advanced and you want to use very advanced cloud management platform functions, then usually you put that one on top. So very often in customers we see CMP even on CMP. Maybe you want to.
No, it's correct. So if you want to go fully hybrid and you want to benefit from this platform as a service offering that Proximus is putting as cloud management platform forward, then you have, well, that's the main reason basically to use our Cloud Fusion management platform. If you're only public clouds oriented, okay, it loses some of its potential, but basically we are talking about hybrid cloud environment here and not about public cloud. If you're fully public cloud, of course you stay in the public cloud and you use their tooling also. It's for the hybrids that it has its use.
Then I see another good question from Pascal de Koning. Does a framework contract, for instance, for the federal government exist for this proposed solution? The answer is yes. We've actually worked on some opportunities, not in the cloud frame, but we also have the same partnership on workplace services and partly on security services. So the way this works contractual as well, that all the contracts that Proximus signs with its customers are fully signed back to back by HCL. So because that's of course a risk. You can't risk that your IT environment is with Proximus and then this partnership becomes a hurdle. So in all of these services that we currently have running, we have the first customers live as well. So if you look at how that works, we sign up back to back to the services that Proximus offers to its customers.
Yeah, and then just for this frame agreement with the federal order of the government, well, there are different frame agreements that we have between several instances of the government. They are not all talking about hybrid clouds specifically, but of course, you should look at hybrid clouds as the fundaments of all applications and all solutions that you want to develop in the future. And as such, inherent, you always have this hybrid cloud story underneath as a potential foundation.
Yeah, and here I see a question from Johan Maris. Is Proximus vContainer part of this platform, or is it completely something else? vContainer is indeed completely part of the Cloud Fusion platform, and hence in the overarching. I also saw questions on CI/CD as an example. It's a good example. What we're currently looking at is a full CI/CD stack to offer as a service as well. So not just the whole cloud platform, including indeed containers, Tanzu or other types of containers. But to also say, okay, but there's also these customers that want to have a full CI/CD tool stack as a service, and then so that's where the labs come in. And this is where the labs come in, and we constantly innovate the service. And I think that's the whole story behind this. Within this combination, and sorry, being a bit, but this offers Proximus. Through Proximus, we can help them. But Proximus basically will always be leading the industry when it comes to technology, with us in the back.
Well, Chris, your assumption on the current priority is being Elastic Ops. What we do is we listen to the customers. So we are not defining the priority. We are listening to the customers, what they are requesting and what they are looking for and what's most urgent for them. And indeed, we see today quite a lot of requests coming from our customers in, hey, I do have an environment, but I'm not that strong in managing it. And I could do better. And I know that I could do better, but I don't know how. And indeed, we see this last time, especially since it's known on the market, that we have a methodology and that we have products and solutions in place to realize these Elastic Ops, that indeed there is a raising request. And that's why after the cloud assessment, which is the first module that we put on the market, it's also visible in the Azure Marketplace, by the way, if not yet today, very soon to come. The very next one is indeed the Elastic Operations.
Yeah, one I think is definitely for you is Proximus is around AI, ADA. Can I use Cloud Fusion as a hybrid AI and data platform? Maybe I can answer at least one. We are providing the services underneath all of Proximus's clouds. So be it the cloud internally for all the systems, the telco cloud environment, which hosts all of the telco functions, but also indeed the EBU platform. And then jointly we offer also public cloud. So I would assume that yes, the basis on that.
And as I said in the previous question or one of the previous answers, putting a hybrid cloud environment in place is not a goal as such, it's a means. And one of those means is unlocking new potential of new technologies like AI and machine learning and so on and so on. So basically, yes, these are the foundations for what we will build further on, and not only in the domain of AI and machine learning, but also data analytics, IoT, and so on and so on. So these are really the foundations for the future next generation applications, let's say.
Yeah, and maybe one addition on it. So the platform itself also has a lot of AI already developed into it. So of course, in the technology that we provide has a lot of the automatic ticket resolution, those kind of elements, right? The whole thing is about how do we increase the resilience, the agility, and a lot of that comes from leveraging AI, automatic resolution of tickets, incidents. Best thing is to prevent them at all through AI. So that type of question. Yeah. Maybe next is yours.
Yeah. Is there a minimum company size to be a Cloud Fusion customer? No. It's not only customer intimacy for some customers. Our slogan is customer intimacy for all customers. So, and whether you're a large corporate or a small SMB, if you need hybrid cloud environments, we will help you and we have solutions for you.
Okay, I think that puts us a bit, we're just scrolling down for a sec, bear with us.
This one we already...
Yeah.
Added value of the Proximus private cloud. Well, and Gijs already mentioned it during one of the slides that he was presenting. What we see is that very often those who immediately jumped to the public clouds, at a certain moment in time, there are some regulatory constraints, some concerns about data privacy and so on, which makes that, yes, for a lot of customers, it still makes sense to make sure that you know where your data is stored, and not only where your data is stored, but that they are securely stored in the boundaries of your own country, first of all. And then secondly, although the Proximus private cloud is not running in your premises, it's closer by than if you run it in a public cloud where it can be in another continent, so to speak. So if latency is important, but not that important that you need it on-prem, well, then the Proximus private cloud still can be an answer for that.
Yeah, I think in the last, I would say the last 5-6 opportunities that we discussed, at least 2 had very specific demands coming to data privacy. And I told you about that big team that manages this. That's a team that's spread over different locations in India, in Poland, and in Belgium. And one of the customers specifically had a need that this can only be managed and done by Belgium local people, which will be Proximus people then, but trained and working within that same contract. So actually they're under, I would say, functional steer of HCL for methodologies, tools, all of that. But there was a specific need to data privacy. And similarly, we had one of the customers as well that said, no, it can't be offshore, but it can be Poland. And then you have a combination of, okay, how do I do the optimum fit? And I think that's something that finding that optimum fit and indeed being a bit more flexible on the type of service you offer and the type of control you get, because some customers don't want the exact same level of control. They say, I want a bit more control. I want a bit more freedom. Now, that type of discussion we can have, whereas typically public cloud providers, it is really the one size fits all.
Okay. So I see we have 5 minutes left. Maybe check if there's a...
I think you have to scroll upwards.
It's your PC. I'll let you do it.
You just have to stop banging the table.
No,
sorry. Should we revert to our Privacy Shield and other GDPR shams through using Cloud Fusion? This is exactly as I discussed it. So we are very much aware. So the Privacy Shield, and that is one of the reasons people look for European cloud. And within European cloud, yes, we have HCL, but we actually have arrangements where we as HCL, none of our people can actually touch the environment. So you can even have an environment that says, I really want it managed by local Belgian people. We can have an open discussion on, say, does it make sure to leverage a bit of offshore to reduce cost, but sometimes also on talent. It's not just a cost to leverage offshore and nearshore. It has everything to do where is talent available, either within Europe or outside of Europe. But indeed, so if you look at the compliancy, we have signed up with Schrems 2 as well, with GDPR, and we are constantly monitoring how that is changing together with Proximus on the innovation side of regulation.
Yeah.
Minimum company, no. I think that then with that, we all have 5 minutes left maybe to get a cup of coffee for the next conference call. But I think thank you all very much for attending.
Yes, again, thanks for spending this sunny afternoon together with us. Hope it was useful and that you enjoyed it. Thank you and have a nice afternoon.
Proximus. Think possible.